Hey, relax. 2:10. All right, let's call to order the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Agency meeting for Thursday, October 13th with a roll call.
All right, can everyone hear me okay? All right, Naomi Dewar? Ed Lawson?
Here.
Alexis Hill?
Here.
Bonnie Weber?
Here.
Devin Reese? Here. Diane Vanderwell?
Here.
Donald Abbott?
Here.
Daniel Booth.
Jean Herman? Absent. Jenny Breckus? Also absent. Vaughn Hartung?
Picking up the rear, here.
And non-voting member Beth Smith?
Here.
All right, we have a quorum.
Did you call me?
I did, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, no worries.
We were trying to plug in our mic.
I could call you if you want me to, one more time.
No.
But he did, okay. All right. Okay, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Donald, will you lead us? Will you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Can we have a discussion whether we're supposed to pause or not?
I don't pause.
I
There's
learned
no
to
comma
pause.
in there.
I learned to pause. That's what they taught us.
Okay, I'm looking for an approval of the agenda.
So moved.
We've got a motion by Reese, a second by Hartung. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, looking for approval of the minutes from August 11th, 2022.
So moved.
Got a
Second.
Motion by Hartung, second by Abbott. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Okay, public comment?
We have received none for this item, but there will be some so far for item 6C.
6 what?
C, as in cat.
E.
C is in cat, but for now, none.
Okay.
C is in chocolate.
That's right.
No talking, Hartung. Okay, 6A, presentation possible approval of the 2021 Truckee Meadows Annual Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jeremy Smith for the record. We're going to have item 6A. It's going to be, we continue this from the last meeting. We're just going to do a quick rundown of the TMR, we call it, or Truckee Meadows Annual Report. We have Regional Planner Shawnee Sousa to take us through that.
Hello, Shawnee Sousa, TMR PA for the record. As Jeremy said, I'm going to be taking you through the TMR. As a reminder, this was an item for our last meeting, but we ran out of time and moved it over to this meeting. So I'll just give a brief overview. The TMR is primarily hosted on our website, but the data is also available for download. And as a reminder, and for those of you that don't know, the requirements for the Regional Plan Annual Reporting Function are drawn for the Nevada Revised Statutes, which require each local government and affected entity to prepare and submit a complete report to the RPC and RPGB by the end of April each year. The Coordinated Annual Reporting Program assists in the compilation of information and how the region as a whole is performing against the 2019 Regional Plan. And as you might be familiar, it's broken into 5 sections, which is population, dwelling units, land use, employment, and summaries. We also have 2 subcategories, and that's the housing data and the demographics. This year we utilized different software. We used Infogram, and now they're actually fully animated, and you can take a look here. And as you can see, each jurisdiction is steadily going up over time, so you can get those values if you take a closer look. Down here, as I said, demographics, and hopefully you'll get a chance on your own to kind of take a look at this. I know today we kind of have a crunch schedule, but you can look at it by tier, by jurisdiction, so it's pretty interesting. And this is also going to be part of the work in the process, part of the regional conversation that we're trying to foster about the public infrastructure investment plan, and we're linking it to the policy goals of our regional plan. Thank you for your time. The suggested motion will be on your screen in just a moment.
Okay, do we have any public comment on this?
We have not received any for this item.
Questions from the board? Okay, got a motion by Hartung, second by Weber. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Okay, this is a public hearing. City of Reno Master Plan Amendment, Peavine Employment Center, consideration of an appeal pursuant to NRS 278.02826 in section 4.11 of the RPGB regulations on procedure of the Regional Planning Commission's determination of nonconformance for a proposed master plan amendment. The plus or minus 210.52 acre site is generally located to the southeast of the intersection of Red Rock and Trail Drive.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For this presentation, we have Nate Kusha, who will take us through the history of how we got to this appeal today. And then we also have Brooke Oswald from the City of Reno to do a short presentation. And the City of Reno's original applicants are also here if you desire a presentation from them or have questions.
Thank you. Good afternoon, board members. Nate Kusher for the record. So as mentioned, this item is for an appeal of nonconformance for City of Reno Master Plan Amendment. That's the Peavine Employment Center. So as Director Smith mentioned, I'm going to give a quick overview of kind of how we're here with this item and a quick overview of our findings for it. Then we'll hear from Brooklyn Oswald from the City of Reno. If the board would like, we can then hear from the applicant's interested party, which is the original applicant to the City of Reno. And then we'll go open it up to board discussion and some possible motions. So with that, some background on the item. At the May 26th Regional Planning Commission meeting, a motion to approve this master plan amendment did not pass with a vote of 5-4, and that technical denial constitutes a finding of nonconformance with the regional plan. You can see on the slide here, those members who could not find inconformance made the following findings, or could not make the following findings rather, and that is Policy RF11, the compatibility factors, specifically compatibility with surrounding land uses and topographic delineations between similar land uses, as well as Policy RF3, density requirements and non-residential standards, specifically regional form and pattern. So following that finding of nonconformance, the Reno City Council provided direction to city staff to file an objection and request that the RPC reconsider the item pursuant to state law. That letter of objection was received on June 15th. On June 23rd, the RPC then reconsidered the item and the City of Reno's objection on the matter and upheld their original determination of nonconformance with the regional plan. Finally, on July 15th, the City of Reno filed an appeal of the RPC's determination, and that's why we're here, for you guys to make a final determination on this matter. So quick overview, this is for the City of Reno Master Plan Amendment, and that's to change land use from large lot neighborhood and public quasi-public to mixed employment and parks, greenways, and open space. Regional planning staff did recommend initially and still recommends that the Peavine Employment Center Master Plan Amendment does conform with the 2019 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan. So this subject site is generally located to the southeast of the intersections of Red Rock Drive and Trail Drive. The request is to change roughly 207 acres of large lot neighborhood and a little over 3 acres of public quasi-public to roughly 169 acres of mixed employment and 41.41 acres of parks, greenways, and open space. That mixed employment land use designation is primarily going to be industrial uses. It is mixed employment. However, there's a special planning district handbook along with that land use and underlying zoning that's really setting an industrial use to be built there. That's just for reference. Also, the proposal is also considered a project of regional significance for having the effect on the region of increasing employment by not less than 938 employees. The RPC also took action on the PRS component of this item and found that that is in conformance with the 2019 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan. So we're just hearing the appeal on the master plan amendment portion tonight. So policy RC9 of the regional plan does set the 5 factors that we need to consider for conformance of a master plan amendment. You can see those here, and we'll run through these just real quick. So for population growth, the proposed change in land uses would result in a mixed employment land use and remove the existing residential use, resulting in a loss of housing capacity. However, given TMRPA's population modeling work, that has identified that the TMSA currently has more than enough projected housing capacity to meet a 20-year demand. So we find that this change is in line with the regional plan population growth policies. For regional form, the subject site is located in Tier 2 of the TMSA. Development in Tier 2 land is generally less densely developed at suburban levels with a variety of residential as well as non-residential uses. Per TMRPA's calculations, there are currently a little over 3,000 acres of vacant industrial land inside the TMSA. This amounts to about 3% of total vacant land within the TMSA, currently designated as industrial. And the proposed change from large lot to industrial will increase the limited amount of industrial within the TMSA. For public facilities and services, site will be served by TUMWA and will sewer to the Reno Stead Water Reclamation Facility, which is currently undergoing an expansion and is anticipated to provide adequate service in the future. The industrial use is also less intensive for sewer and effluent than residential. And while the proposed amendment will bring an influx in new traffic to the area, the Special Planning District Handbook that is going along with this amendment does limit the total average daily trips, or ADT, to 6,000. Any anticipated increase over that 6,000 would require an amendment to the SPD handbook, which would require review by City of Reno and a subsequent conformance review by Team RPA staff here if a 6,250 ADT threshold is triggered, as it will need to come back for a review for a project of regional significance for traffic. For natural resources, there is some DCA for slopes greater than 30% on site. Any development in that area will be subject to the City of Reno's policies regarding DCA. Also, these DCA areas primarily consist of 2 drainage ways that exist on the project site, and these are proposed to be in an open space land use. The properties to the south of the subject site are currently unbuilt. Therefore, there are some wildland urban interface or WUI concerns. However, City of Reno Master Plan does have Policy 6.2C, which addresses WUI, and additionally, the proposed industrial development is anticipated to have less risk than residential due to the industrial nature of buildings being typically concrete or cement rather than wood buildings, and neither people nor animals will be living in these buildings. Finally, for regional coordination, we found no applicable policies other than our review criteria listed here. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Brooke Oswald from the City of Reno to give a presentation.
Great. Thank you, Nate. Do I have a... Good afternoon, Governing Board. My name is Brooke Oswald. I'm an Associate Planner with Development Service at the City of Reno, and will be representing the City of Reno today. I have a lot of my presentation is similar to what Nate just went over, but we're looking at from the city's side and why we did our analysis and how we applied to move this forward. Quickly, once again, that's a 200-acre site. To identify where that is, that's the intersection of Red Rock Road and 395, and that is Stead Boulevard. Coming a little bit closer on the site. So we have previous city council approvals. There's a bundle of approvals that went along with this master plan. We have our master plan resolution before you today, and then we have a zoning map ordinance that Nate mentioned. That zoning map ordinance is for a specific plan district that uses our mixed employment zoning and then provides a handbook to modify those standards. What we're seeing there is increased building sizes. And in addition, that we're seeing a number of sustainability conditions and factors associated with that. So we're seeing kind of a payoff for the change of that. Additionally, we have an annex of approximately 40 acres that was approved by City Council. Our master plan, a large portion of the site, about 160 of that acres is a large lot residential. And then we have that quasi-public quasi, that's where we came in with that annexation. We inherited a road that had that designation. And then, as Nate mentioned, we do have the project of regional significance for employment. We should look at our site around this. If we look to adjacent across 395, with that 395 sort of creating that buffer between those, we see a large suburban development there, residential development, and we're seeing some multifamily. And within our specific plan district, we have some commercial that is proposed to be provided right at the intersection of Red Rock and 395 on the project site. And so as staff looked at that, we're looking at that work-life balance and that ability of that workforce in close proximity to the housing and homes. This is what is proposed and was before you. As you can see, we have those PGOS, that's our parks, greenways, and open space. Those lay over large drainages, and you are seeing those used as buffers against the existing rural residential lots that we have in that area. And then the red being the mixed employment, where we'd anticipate seeing that commercial development down by the interchange there, and then more of an industrial development as we move up the hillside. Quickly to go over the timeline and process on this, we originally, our city council originally saw this back in March. We had an approval of 6-1 city sponsorship, becoming the applicant. It went to the Regional Planning Commission. Regional Planning staff did recommend approval at that time. It was, did the conformance review, and we saw that technical denial, 5 opposed, or 5 in favor, 4 opposed. We went back to our city council looking for direction and authority. They gave staff direction and authority to go forward with reconsideration. If that failed, to move forward with an appeal, which is where we are here today, and that approval of that was 6-1. It was filed. We went to our regional planning condition. The reconsideration also failed. The project of regional significance did pass on that, and then once again, we're back to that technical denial. So here we are today at the Regional Governing Board. The appeal has been filed. I went through all those other approvals and applications on this. If this appeal is denied today, all those approvals will fail. And if approved, we go back to our Reno City Clerk, and then we'll move forward to process all of those approvals. Quickly look at that development in that area that we've seen, and as we looked at this, as Nate mentioned, that limitation of actually developable lands for industrial uses, this being approximately 200 acres added to that, 3% of what we have in the area. So over the last 10 years, we've seen tremendous growth along that North Virginia transit corridor off just 395 there, in close proximity to 395. So down at Lemon Valley Road is the blue arrow, Stead, Red Rock Road, and just for reference, that's our project site. So as we move through at about 3-year to 4-year intervals over the past decade, what you can see is that large format warehouse and distribution starting to align along that south side of 395. And then we're seeing really much more of that coming in. And so we're starting to see this development pattern of that 395, largely due to those off-ramps, those services. We did go through a master plan and zone change in that area too, which has facilitated a large amount of this growth. As staff looked at this, we saw this as a continuation and a logical continuation along that south side of 395, creating that buffer to where we're seeing much more of that residential development to the north. Quickly go over it is in that tier 2. We do see that lighter suburban development in that, but that tier 2 allows for those denser nodes of employment and looking for those employment centers to support that residential housing. We have a number of natural constraints on this. As we go further up the hill, we're seeing federal lands. We have a number of other federal lands in close proximity. The light blue there is that tier 3, which really restricts development and very constrained in that way. But another unique thing on this site that we are looking at, that large green portion is parks, greenways, and open space, largely limiting any development that we would anticipate seeing to the west of this site. Quickly, just going over our sphere of influence of the city of Reno, because it is kind of unique. Sorry, this is the railroad here, and then 395 to the upper portion. So now to look at our sphere of influence as we go over our sphere of influence. The yellow represents the city of Reno boundaries. That purple is representing the sphere of influence. There is a unique circle in this, and this is a remnant through some of the historic entitlement and some of the things that happened at that time. So this really starts to bring that area more, brings in that donut hole that we see there and sort of that nonconformity of that area. Staff's analysis of that felt that it was appropriate to bring that land in the proximity of 395 and the surrounding land uses that we saw there. And then finally, I'll leave with that limitation of available land in the area, knowing that we do need to provide that equality of housing and also looking for employment areas, and that we have such a limited area to do this. We see this with the proximity to the railroad, 395 access, the growth of the North Virginia industrial corridor. We're seeing in that this is a logical extension of that. We see this as a viable and appropriate place for this development. With that, I will conclude my presentation, available for questions as needed. Thank you.
All right, so options for the board tonight are, one, to reverse the RPC's determination of nonconformance, finding the master plan amendment to the City of Reno master plan in conformance with the regional plan, or the other option, to uphold the RPC's determination of nonconformance, therefore the master plan does not conform, and if we go that route, you may also provide specific suggestions for the applicant, City of Reno in this case, changes for that master plan amendment for them to bring back in the future so that it will conform. So those are the options. There's some motions up here. Yet again, if you move to reverse the RPC's determination, you'll be finding the master plan amendment in conformance. If you uphold the determination, it's non-conformance. So I'll leave it there, and we do have the applicant's interested party, the original applicant to the City of Reno, available for presentation if you'd like. Otherwise, we'll open it up for board discussion and questions.
What's the pleasure of the board? Do you want to have public comment first, or do you want to go to questions?
Yeah.
Public comment, okay. This is a public hearing. Anyone in the public wishing to speak at this time?
We have not received any for this item.
Okay, we'll close it and bring it back to the board. Mr. Hartung? Is your mic on?
It's not. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So legal, talk to us about the requirements. It was a 5-4 technical denial, 5 who were for, 4 opposed. What were the requirements for this?
For a conformance review of a master plan amendment, you have to have a 2/3 majority vote of the
Okay.
Regional Planning Commission.
Does that also have to occur here?
No, but you have to have an affirmative vote of the majority of the entire membership. So you are looking for 6 votes here to take action.
Okay, all right, very good. Okay, so that's my first question. So these are the 3 things that I see as being either positive or limiting factors: water, wastewater, and traffic. So if this were to be maintained as residential, that's a fairly large lift on water and both wastewater. But as industrial, I mean, that's a positive. So have we done an analysis on water requirements and wastewater requirements, Mr. Kushner?
We did some kind of preliminary analysis on traffic as well as wastewater, not necessarily water, but wastewater sewer for industrial is typically a lighter use than residential.
Sure.
I'm sure I would say with confidence that water would be the same.
Water's going to be the same.
Right.
Very typical.
And then traffic as well. We did an analysis on traffic, which actually showed the maximum for traffic of the types of industrial uses contemplated here very high, upwards of 12,000 ADU. But the SPD handbook we found to kind of alleviate a lot of that because it caps it at 6,000. And if that was changed, it would have to go through City of Reno. And if it goes above 6,250, it'd be back to us for review again.
Okay, so let's talk about that traffic for just a minute and time of build-out. Will it somehow coordinate, and I'll just use the word coincide with the improvements going on in 395 North?
So there are improvements to, I think, the Red Rock interchange as well as Red Rock Road up there. And I think that's planned for in the 20-year timeframe of the Regional Transportation Plan, the RTP. However, I do believe that it's in a farther timeframe. So depending on when this build out, I don't know exactly how they'll line up, but it is contemplated in the RTP.
Can the City of Reno require as a condition the improvements to Red Rock and that interchange, even though it's an NDOT interchange?
Yes, Brooke Oswald with the City of Reno. Yes, that was contemplated within this. The applicant, city staff, and NDOT actually worked together. They'll be creating an ICE thing, which is an impact. I can't quite remember what it stands for, but basically it's looking at the impacts that occur with the development on that NDOT and that interchange, specifically at Red Rock there. And then the applicant would be responsible for their portion of those improvements as that went forward.
Mr. Oswald, when the City of Reno did its analysis, did you guys look at where employment would be drawn from? So in other words, does it appear that it's going to be sort of a live-work-play scenario where people would live in the area and work at these industrial sites?
You know, that's always hard to contemplate where people are going to be moving and doing that. But what we really did look at is that proximity of existing housing and those housing centers to these areas, and the ability of transit or pedestrian walkways and some of those other things to these sites that would facilitate that ability for that, live-work possibility within the area.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thanks. Couple questions for different people. Brooke, maybe first question was, I was a little confused. You showed a map that had the UT40, and I wondered if we could just bring up that slide. I didn't understand when you both spoke pretty quickly, which I appreciate, but I didn't catch a couple things. And so you had some maps.
Yes, if you just pull up my slide again, and I can try to get you, I think.
And you also referenced a donut hole. I
there it
wasn't
is.
sure what that was.
Okay, so as you can see, well, let's go with the donut hole first, because
Okay.
this is a good slide for that. So the purple, that represents the City of Reno sphere of influence. The orange stripe represents the city boundary. As you can see, there's a hole in the middle there that's not marked either. So that's a county parcel that's not in our sphere, so we have this weird.
Do you mean to the left of the dotted yellow line?
So in the dotted yellow line, just above the majority of that dotted yellow line, and to that, we have this area that's not shaded any color.
Yeah.
So that's not within our sphere of influence, and that's not within the city of Reno. So that is under the county jurisdiction. They can, because they have the property owners and they are adjacent, they can ask for that annexation, therefore becoming the city. But where we're seeing is a reduction of that sort of odd county island within in sort of
So
the
when you say
jurisdictional
reduction,
authority of Reno.
So which part, when you say a reduction, so what I'm confused about this map, the purple is what?
That's the sphere of influence.
And then the striped is what?
That would be the city of Reno boundary or city of Reno.
Oh, so that's annexed.
Yep, that's what we
Okay, and the
so
purple's still in the sphere.
still in the sphere, but we
Okay.
have a portion that's not in the sphere. That's kind of this odd. We have city all
I
around it,
understand
and
now.
we
I
have
do
sphere
understand.
on the other side.
So then you had another map before this one that showed the UT40, and you said, yeah. And what I wasn't clear, you said, with this will fix something. But does this stay UT40, or does this become part of the SPD?
So our property is actually, the subject property is just above
The
that. So
yellow.
that's that LLR 2.5 above that and above. So that UT40, it's currently within the city of Reno. It has a zoning of that unincorporated transition, 1 unit per 40 acres. We would anticipate at some point we will see a request to rezone that or look at that property in
Okay.
a different way.
And then you mentioned, and I apologize, I know I've seen this once, detail, second time very lightly. It's been a while, so I just wanted to get this clear in my head. The hillside portion, and you started mentioning hillside, but you also mentioned industrial. So the part that's UT40, that would also be going up the hill, essentially?
We see that. That's kind of that start of that foothills up to
Yeah.
Peavine. So that UT40 is the last piece of property in the city of Reno there. And then if you can see just below that, it's actually federal land
Right,
stops there.
that's what I
So
thought.
that is kind of the limit of the boundary of the
Okay.
city of Reno.
And then I had two more questions. I didn't understand this acronym DCA. I'm sorry, I haven't heard it for a long time. So what is that?
Sorry, that is our development constraints area. And so
Okay.
that we have a specific policy in the regional plan, which is
In
our
the regional
development
plan.
constraints policy.
And tell me what you were saying about that.
So there is a DCA, development constraints area, on this property for slopes over 30%. So any slopes over 30% are considered DCA.
Right.
You generally can't build on those areas.
Right, and they're not.
And they're not, yeah.
Right.
They have policies in the City of Reno Master Plan that follow our policies.
Okay. And then I just wanted to ask about the 6,000 trips, and you mentioned 12,000. I thought you mentioned 12,000 also, but I got confused. So is 6,000 the limit at which it would go to a PRS?
6,250 is
Okay.
our PRS limit. 6,000 is the limit that has been set by the City of Reno and the applicant in the SPD handbook.
So in that traffic, you said there was a traffic question. I don't think it was about whether it tripped the PRS. I think it was about traffic in general. So I think Mr. Hartung brought up about the, this area and the congestion that we have. You mentioned 20-year plan. You asked a great question, I thought, Mr. Hartung, relating to that. But I just wondered, do we have the option at Reno to ask to move this up on the list of projects for
I mean,
anybody?
that's not
Is it
our
NDOT?
prerogative. I would say
Is
it's
it
in
NDOT
the
though?
RTP. So RTC has identified it. Some of these specific changes on 395 would be NDOT. So I can't really.
It's a
answer that
combo.
question.
Maybe Brooke can just mention. It's a combo, Brooke, of RTC and NDOT, or
Yes, because Red Rock Road being the RTC, And then all those interchanges and the off-ramps, which
Being NDOT.
largely would be an NDOT. And then we actually have North Virginia Street, which
Yeah.
is another RTC
Because we
road.
have
And do
discussed
have-
this at a lot at Reno, is accelerating, if, I guess my related question is the 6,000 trips, are these big trucks? Are these employee cars? What is this?
You're seeing a combination of both. So your employees coming to work, and then you're seeing your warehousing and associated things. One thing we do have with RTC, and we're seeing that now, currently planning stage to be moving forward, is that portion between Lemon and Stead being improved, widened, turning lanes will take a ton of pressure off that because of that industrial area, and that should work better. And then we are seeing in that 10 to 20 year time frame, that extension of that along.
I like 10 to 20 times.
And it could be sooner. So I think we actually saw that North Virginia corridor come forward much quicker at this point.
Okay, my last question is, I know that the applicant put in some sustainability features.
Yes.
So you mentioned it in your presentation to offset, I think, the potential large building size or roofs. I see Mr. Gordon here. I would just like to get those, and I know when we spoke about them, it was in a 6-point font, and that's the last time I saw it. Do you have something on that? Would you mind sharing that with us? Okay. Because I think it's really important as we put in, as we grow this industrial sector, offsetting the heat. And I think one of the ones I recall was white roofs. And these were not requested by me. These, I think you said, were from the Reno Planning Commission is where it started. I just think it's good to refresh on this.
Sure, let me have him pull it up.
Okay.
Yes, please. Thank you, sir.
And I think it should probably be general practice. Everything has to start somewhere. And I've talked to Brooke, and there's a lot of features to offset the heat impact and just the overall size and things. And maybe you could just tell us what those are.
Sure. Perfect. Mr. Chairman, for the record, Garrett Gordon, the council member Dewar. So I'll skip to I had a little brief presentation, but let me skip to the sustainability slides, if I may. There we go. So just a little background, the Reno Planning Commission approved some sustainability policies over a year ago. Those haven't been codified by the Reno City Council yet, but Panattoni, trying to go above and beyond, took that list from the Planning Commission and created in their handbook a sustainability section in regards to what sustainability policies would apply to all buildings, some smaller buildings, larger buildings. So we did work with Reno Planning Commissioner Mark Johnson, licensed architect, on a number of these policies before we went to the Reno Planning Commission. And then also in the course of the hearing with Councilmember Dewar, she helped us kind of organize and make sure a few of them, or at least one of them, were required for all buildings, and then others for, again, the size of the buildings. So I won't spend too much time unless you want me to, but just to summarize briefly, again, this is in our handbook, so required, and it's voluntary. It's not in Reno code. All buildings have to, will require drought-resistant with low-pressure emitting drip systems. So that's in every single building that goes to this project. 1B is any building that's greater than 100,000 square feet. There used to be more of a voluntary component, but working with Councilmember Dewar, 2 through 6 are now required, shall be incorporated into every large building. Cool roofs, in warehouse lighting consisting of skylights, LED lights, daylight harvesting, other kind of sensors. For night cooling, some of these Panattoni is already doing in their buildings. Night cooling is one of those. 5, 2 parking spaces to be EV installed, complete charging stations per every 100,000 square feet. And then 6, interior water used to be 20% less than code minimum. So that's a pretty big give there to making sure we are preserving and conserving water. And then the next 2 slides, C, 7 through 17, those are required for all buildings, but depending on the type of tenant, some may comply with, be able to comply with some of these, others may not. So these buildings, these tenants pick 3. So 3 of the 7 through 19, renewable energy, high efficiency rooftop, use of recycled materials, And then 10 through 17, all in that sustainability category. I'm happy to go through them, but I think that might be enough.
So I just wanted to point out, too, that I think speak to the issue of nonconformance. One of those things, excuse me, on the traffic issue, I think that the more EV we get out in this area, the ability to charge EV, you know, as we grow this way, we're getting further and further from the spaghetti bowl. And that means potentially, while we'd love the people to live out here, Mr. Hartung, we find that people live everywhere. And I find that I have a lot of people in South Reno that are actually working out in places like this. This is like a 40-minute drive. And so the more that we can provide EV charging stations, those kind of things that cut down the emissions and that get, you know, even if there is carpooling, you get my drift. It reduces the number of vehicles on the road and it reduces the impacts out here, which in many areas in North Valleys, but all of Reno, we haven't met air quality standards fully, you know, over this 40-plus year period. So I think those kind of things help. And then finally, just these very big buildings that are bigger than all of us imagine sometimes, having those cool roofs and having other features, I think, reduces that impact. And you're right here by Peavine, which is, you know, a wildlife area, or excuse me, a wilderness type of area where a lot of people hike and so on. I think it's a good add, so I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chair, I would be remiss if, while I was standing here, I did not get on the record that the zoo, who is in Washoe County, contiguous to this project, did send a letter in support. Thank you.
The zoo.
The zoo.
Thank you. I know where it is.
Mr. Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion if there aren't any more questions.
Go right ahead.
I move to reverse the RPC's determination of nonconformance and find the proposed master plan amendment CR 22-002 conforms with the adopted 2019 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan.
Second.
Got a motion by Vanderwell, second by Reese. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, moving on to 6C, Regional Plan Amendment, RPA 22-001, Chocolate Drive, possible adoption of the RPGB Resolution 22-01 regarding an amendment to the regional land design for the subject site from Tier 3 land to Tier 2 land. The approximate size is 45.51 acre parcel located west of Chocolate Drive between West 5th Avenue and West 2nd Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For this presentation, we have Regional Planner Chris Tolley.
Good afternoon, Governing Board members. Chris Tolley, Team RPA. This item is a regional plan amendment to change the subject site from Tier 3 to Tier 2. The proposal is an amendment to the 2019 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan to change the subject site from Tier 3 to Tier 2, which would allow for an amendment to the Washoe County Master Plan to change the subject site from suburban residential to urban residential and open space. The Regional Planning Commission recommended approval of this amendment to the regional plan at their August 25th, 2022 meeting. The RPC also found that the proposed amendment to the Washoe County Master Plan conformed with the regional plan. And then additionally, the Washoe County Board of County Commissioners approved the project at their meeting on June 28th. And finally, Regional Planning staff also recommended that the proposed amendment to the regional plan conforms with the 2019 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan. The regional land designation amendment from Tier 3 to Tier 2 is required because the property owner is proposing to construct a low-income, affordable, multifamily development which is not permissible under the suburban residential land use and implementing zone districts. Tier 2 may go up to 30 dwelling units per acre and is appropriate for the urban residential land use, which would ultimately allow for the multifamily development. The anticipated low-income, affordable multifamily development is proposed for approximately 240 units, or around 6 dwelling units per acre, and this density is currently allowed by the suburban residential land use on the site. So, policy overview. For this proposal, the primary policies that set the review criteria for the regional plan amendment side are RF5, regional land designation amendments, and the overarching RC10, which we'll cover on the next slide. RF5 sets the specific criteria for inclusion into different tiers. In this case, Tier 3 to Tier 2. The criteria analysis is embedded in the analysis provided for RC10 in the staff report and considers a finer view of the regional form, regional land designation requirements identified in policy RF3, and public facilities and compatibility. And then here's the criteria listed in policy RT10, and we'll go over the analysis on the next slide. In 2020 and the forthcoming 2022 consensus forecast both identify that the population in the region will continue to increase over the next 20 years by about 100,000 residents. The increase in potential residential density as a result of the proposed tier change is limited to one parcel, which is adjacent to Tier 1 lands. As noted, the Tier 2 would allow for a maximum of 30 dwelling units per acre. However, the actual development being proposed is for approximately 6 dwelling units per acre, as noted. The existing development within the appropriate proximity of the subject site will benefit from public infrastructure investment, and this includes improvements to Chocolate Drive, right-of-way, and the wastewater conveyance system. Water facilities are required to be constructed by the developer, and the Sun Valley General Improvement District has available and adequate capacity to serve the proposal. The wastewater conveyance system is anticipated to receive targeted improvements in addition to the on-site improvements constructed by the developer. SVGID has wastewater treatment capacity pursuant to their allotted treatment share at the Truckee Meadows Water Reclamation Facility. Regarding transportation, the primary set of improvements anticipated will be adjacent to the subject site on Chocolate Drive, and based on information submitted by Washoe County, Chocolate Drive will be required to be improved to the requisite standard, including paved road, curb, gutter, and sidewalk. The regional planning staff has reviewed Washoe County School District's school zones and enrollment data for the previous school year. Future development on the site will be served by the Allen Elementary School, the Desert Skies Middle School, and the newly opened Proctor Hug High School. The 2021-2022 enrollment data showed that Allen and Desert Skies had enrollment capacity, and enrollment data, while it's not currently available for Hug, is not anticipated to be an issue. And then a review of the 2019 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan Map 4 Development Constraints Area, or DCA, identified that the western portion of the subject site contains a small portion of development constraints area for slopes over 30%. These areas are proposed to be included in the open space land use designation. And then the submittal to Washoe County identified the presence of altered andesite buckwheat on the adjoining properties to the west, which is owned by Washoe County and designated open space by Washoe County, and southwest, owned by the University of Nevada, Reno, and designated mixed employment by the City of Reno. Altered andesite buckwheat is endemic to the altered andesite soils around Reno and Sparks, and while the species is not listed federally as threatened or endangered, it is listed as at risk on the Nevada Division of Natural Heritage's Plant and Animal Tracking List, and is listed as a sensitive species by the Bureau of Land Management. These listings do not provide formal protection on private land, but nevertheless should prompt concern as they indicate the species nature or the special nature of this particular buckwheat, which is found only in this region and only on specific mineral soils. To the best of our knowledge, the altered andesite buckwheat is not present on the site, but is certainly in close proximity, and potential impacts to the species resultant from any development nearby should be acknowledged. And while Team RPA cannot condition projects, we encourage any on-site development to consider the species habitat and the project design and to incorporate altered andesite buckwheat into the landscaping plans. And then the final portion of the regional plan amendment review criteria, at least for this presentation, is for the regional land designation amendment. So as introduced, there are specific criteria to meet, and the analysis was included in this particular section of the staff report, and here's a summary. A change to Tier 2 on the site represents an appropriate transition to a higher tier, especially considered the limited scope of the project. The Tier 2 designation caps potential development at 30 dwelling units per acre. The proposed density does fall within the minimum and maximum for lands within Tier 2. And then the Sun Valley area of the unincorporated Washoe County was identified through the regional plan update as being appropriate for Tier 1 lands. This decision was based on allowing greater development potential to foster an increase in public and private investment in the area. So in conclusion, the Regional Planning Commission and Regional Planning staff are recommending that the proposal conforms with the applicable policies of the regional plan. And then finally, the regional lens for this proposal includes a wider view than most proposals or most projects. The analysis presented references decisions arrived at through the 2019 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan Update and the Washoe County Home Consortium funding process. So with that, that does conclude my presentation. The proposed motion is on the screen, and staff from both Team RPA and Washoe County are available for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to public hearing first. Is that public hearing? Anyone in the public wishing to speak at this time, Mr. Clerk?
The two comment cards I see now just said if there are any questions or comments from folks that are available to answer. So I don't believe that they wanted to speak. So
All right,
other than that, I've received
Bring
none.
it back to the dais. Questions from the board?
I have one.
Ms. Dewar?
Yep. And I know I should have gathered this from the staff report, but can you just, and you probably mentioned it right at the beginning and I still missed it, was, so who is requesting this? Who's sponsoring this change of tier?
So this would be really through Washoe County. They process the master plan and then the zoning portion of this. And forthcoming will be an actual development proposal, including the multi-development. But that went through their process and then was essentially sponsored by Washoe County. And then the applicant to them would be the actual developers of the site.
Yeah. So what I was wondering, I mean, Washoe County just doesn't decide to change tiers. So there's a developer. I didn't hear any mention of name or what development is cited for here, or could you share?
So the development would be the approximate 240 unit multifamily low income development.
So was it like our RHA or like a low affordable housing developer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And this did go, as mentioned in the staff report and or in the presentation, this process or this project also went through the Home Consortium funding process.
That's what I thought.
And
Yeah.
secured $200,000 for the development, and that would lock in an affordability period of, I believe, 30 years.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Ryan Rogers with Pedcore Investments.
Could you come
and
up closer a little? Or
I'm Ryan
pull the
Rogers
mic.
with
There you go.
Pedcore Investments. There, hopefully that works better.
There you go.
And we are the developer for this, behind this application. We are primarily a affordable multifamily developer. We have about 24,000 multifamily units in our portfolio in about 20 different states. So this is something that we do very well, and we are excited to be a partner with Washoe County in bringing affordable units to this area.
How big is the site?
This site is approximately 40 acres.
40?
Yeah.
And then I think I've been at this exact site, but not for this project, for another reason. Is there like a cross street on Chocolate Drive? I had pulled it up on my,
Well, there would be a number of streets at.
or just a major, is it like Fourth,
West Fifth Street.
West Fifth? That's what I was
think it's
wondering.
between West 2nd and West 5th Street.
West Fifth and West 2nd. Got it. Got it. Okay, so, right, so Fifth is on one end, and then this West 2nd. Yeah, so, okay, I know exactly where it is. I've actually been there before, not too long ago, and I understand. And so when I was there, a lot of residents asked about, different people I had talked to asked whether there was a development coming. There was like a rumor and this and that. Do you think it will cover the whole 40 acres? Or I know there's a hill sort of in that area.
Well, we're currently working on the site plan right now. So it will, because of the hillside development, we will be closer to Chocolate Drive, and that's why it's only about 6 units per acre overall, because it will
Gotcha.
be a long development, but it won't go deep. We probably won't, there's a point to the south that we will stop before getting all the way down the site, because again, there's topography on the southern end of the site.
Right.
That wouldn't really allow us to have development. So I would say it's gonna primarily be the 2/3 of the northern portion of the site. In addition to that, I think one good point is that this is restricted to 2 stories, and you're at the lower end, so you're not going to be restricting a lot of the views that you would have going beyond our development to Red Hill.
So 2 stories.
2 stories.
Yeah, that's unusual for affordable development to see often. Okay.
Yeah, I think
Thank
the acreage makes us able to get that density that we would need to make it financially feasible and keep 2 stories.
Right, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Hill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If there aren't any other questions, I'd be happy to make the motion.
We got one more question from Mr. Reese.
Not so much a question, but if the developer wanted to come forward again. First of all, thank you for investing in our community. We desperately need housing of all different types, but especially the type of housing that is planned for this site. Thank you to Washoe County for their commitment to this region's growth opportunities and housing stock as well. I will say that as a body, you know, sometimes the wonkiness of moving things between tiers can get lost in the shuffle. And we all have some responsibilities to our individual organizations on which bodies we serve, but we also have to understand the broader impact of the way in which Reno is developing. All the easy, affordable land is gone. It's harder, small spaces. It's long, narrow stretches along a mountain way, but those are still things where we can contribute to the overall economic vitality of the region. So I'm happy to see Washoe County's efforts and yours as well. Again, you're to be commended for it. Help us to help you, right? Where there are things that we have done as bodies that have made it more difficult or time consuming to get to this moment, let us change those things, because again, the reluctance that we have at times is also some overwhelming nature, because again, the moving between tiers, the going to different kinds of bodies, the alphabet soup of who does what to when and why can be confusing. And so I commend you again for staying the course. Ms. Hill will be making a motion. I hope will be supportive, of course. But for me, thank you again for being here. Thank you for your commitment to this area. Thank you for building housing that people can live in and live productive lives.
Well, thank you very much, and I also want to thank the staff that we've worked with. All of the staff have been amazing to work with, because it is a very difficult process, and if you don't have support of the staff that you all have at Washoe County and all throughout, have been a blessing to help us get to this point, because it is not easy. So thank you for that.
Mr. Hartung?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I don't want to steal any of my colleagues' thunder when she makes a motion. This was supported by the County Commission. This was an amazing project. There was a lot of misinformation about this project out there, and that was all clarified by the applicants. This is really going to be a showpiece, and ultimately will be I would say a project where other projects could potentially be modeled after. It's just a wonderful addition in this neighborhood, much needed. And I want to thank the applicants for coming forward and wanting to do this. And we were thrilled, and we couldn't vote fast enough. So I will turn it back over to my colleague and let her make the motion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Or you can send it back to the chair. Where did Ms. Hill go? Come
Hello,
back.
Mr. Chairman.
I was sharing the motion with her so she could see it.
Oh. Do you need to see it? Go ahead, Alexis.
Thank you. I move to adopt RPGB Resolution 22-01 regarding the amendment to the 2019 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan based on the findings listed in the staff report with enthusiasm.
Second.
Enthusiasm. Looking for a second, Mr. Hartung?
Yes, I seconded it.
Okay, I got a motion by Ms. Hill, a second by Mr. Hartung. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Good luck, guys. As an aside, I looked at that piece of property when I was in the construction business for development. It's a lot of dirt work. A lot of dirt work. Okay. Let's move on to item 6D, public hearing, regional plan amendment, RPA 22-002, Canyons Edge, possible adoption of RPGB Resolution 22-02 regarding amendment to the regional land design for the subject site from Tier 3 to Tier 2. And the acres, it's 80.22 acre site located approximately 1,400 feet east of the eastern terminus of Mine Shaft Drive.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have Nate Kusha again, policy analyst, for this presentation.
Thank you. Good afternoon again, members of the board. As mentioned, this item is for a regional plan amendment to change the regional land designations, or tiers, to accommodate a City of Reno Master Plan Amendment, Canyons Edge. So, quick overview. This is a proposal is an amendment to the 2019 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan to change the subject site from Tier 3 to Tier 2. The Regional Planning Commission at their September 22nd meeting both sponsored and recommended that the governing board adopt the proposed Canyons Edge mapping amendment to the 2019 regional plan. And regional planning staff does recommend that the proposed amendment to the regional plan conforms with the regional plan. So this is a regional plan amendment to change the regional land designation from Tier 3 to Tier 2. Tier 3 does have a density standard of the existing density, so you're not able to do change any land uses to go above the density that's currently allowed, and while Tier 2 allows up to 30 dwelling units per acre. So the associated Canyons Edge Master Plan Amendment to the City of Reno Master Plan does require a tier amendment in order to accommodate a land use with a higher density. And a tier change has been requested just on 14 acres of the total, a little over 80 acre site. And that's really to accommodate 8 additional houses in the Canyons planned unit development. So again, as Chris Tolley gave in the last presentation, policy RC10 outlines our review criteria for a regional plan amendment. So I'll go ahead and run through these pretty quick. So the proposal will be part of the Canyons planned unit development, as mentioned, and will accommodate 8 additional uses, or 8 additional homes, rather, in the PUD, bringing the maximum total allowed residential dwelling units to 91. The small increase in units is expected to have minimal impact on regional capacities, other existing and planned developments, as well as existing and planned facilities and services. For natural resources, the eastern portion of the site does contain development constraints areas, or DCA, for slopes over 30%. All of these areas will remain in Tier 3. They're not requesting the tier change on the sloped area. According to the submitted materials, the project is also located within a wildland urban interface, or WUI area, and any future development will follow requirements set forth in the state's adoption of the Wildland Urban Interface Code under NRS Chapter 477. And the International Wildland Urban Interface Code sets access, water, and building composition standards for applicable developments. And then finally, due to the presence of horses in the area, precautions have been taken for both the safety of horses and people in the development. These include things such as a horse trail to allow passage to existing water sources, as well as access roadway improvements to support diversionary feeding. And there's also a wider list of commitments made by the developer, and you can see that full list as attachment 2 to your staff report. The amendment is not anticipated to result in any intergovernmental impacts and will not negatively impact the health and welfare of the community. And finally, as Mr. Tolley mentioned in his presentation, policy RF5 sets the specific criteria for inclusion into different tiers, in this case, moving from Tier 3 into Tier 2. Just to summarize that, a change to Tier 2 is appropriate as it is directly adjacent to Tier 2 land, falls within the minimum and maximum densities for lands within Tier 2, and there are facilities, services, and services planned for, and it will allow for a limited increase in housing units. So in conclusion, staff does recommend the proposal conforms with the policies of the regional plan, and that includes policy RF5, which sets those specific criteria for tier amendments, as well as policy RC10, which is our regional plan amendment findings criteria. So with that, there's a motion overhead, and myself, as well as City of Reno staff, are available for any questions.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Anyone in the public wishing to speak at this time?
We have no public comment for this item.
Close it and bring it back to the dais. Any questions from the dais? Okay, I'm looking for a motion then.
Mr. Chair, I would be proud to move to approve Regional Planning Governing Board Resolution 22-02, adopting amendments to all maps of the 2019 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan as detailed in the staff report.
Second. Oh.
Got a motion by Reese, a second by Weber. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, 6E, Regional Plan Amendment, RPA 22-003, Annual Review and Update of the Regional Plan, Possible Adoption of RPGB Resolution 2203 regarding the annual review and update of the 2019 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan conducted by the RPC pursuant to NRS 278.0272, including minor policy and mapping corrections, clarifications, and updates.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is our annual housekeeping update, and for this one, we have Regional Planner Shawnee Sousa.
Hello again, Shawnee Sousa, Team RPA for the record. I'll be taking you through item 6E, the annual regional plan update. As most of you are aware, the 2019 regional plan was updated in October of 2019, and generally around this time each year, we do these updates. This RPA presents the adjustments and corrections identified by staff over the last year for consideration. RPC, as well as the regional planning staff, recommend that the amendments support the implementation of the goals and the policies of the 2019 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan. The NRS subsection is shown on the screen above and identifies that the regional plan should be reviewed annually for potential updates. Updates to the plan this year include minor policy and mapping corrections, clarifications, and updates. The list of changes is on the screen, but it may be a little tough to see, so if you turn to page 103, you can take a little closer look. The first and the fifth updates on this list are to update the plan's content in Appendix 4 to the current 2022 Washoe County Consensus Forecast. The second update is to remove a reference to elsewhere in the plan. The third update is a minor grammatical correction. And the fourth update includes minor grammatical corrections as well, and also includes updating the Public Infrastructure Investment Plan to remove the word investment, as well as updating the associated acronym. The last adjustments to the plan pertain to Map 3, Regional Utility and Corridors and Sites. And this consists of symbolizing the existing transmission corridors outside of Team RPA's jurisdiction differently than those within our jurisdiction. So if you look on the right, you can see our main map, and then on the left, I tried to zoom in a little so you could see that as we go out of our jurisdiction out of Washoe County, it's going to change from that solid darker line to a dashed lighter line. And we're doing this because those sections of the corridors outside Washoe County do not qualify as regional utility corridors under the 2019 regional plan. And then this is just a reminder and kind of a reference to that list I gave before. We have updated the Washoe County Consensus Forecast, and that's actually going to be Appendix 4 in the plan, and you can also view that on our website. We have updated graphics as well, and there's some interactive graphs, so if you go to the website, it's pretty cool. So to wrap up, Policy RC10, found above, identifies the 7 criteria that the RPC and RPGB must consider when evaluating a regional plan amendment. This amendment is not anticipated to impact policies 2 through 7. However, for the first, the regional capacities and growth projections, you're going to notice the proposed policy adjustments, mapping adjustments, and grammatical and mapping corrections to the 2019 regional plan will be updated to the new regional capacities and growth projections identified in our updated forecast. The proposed motion is on the screen or on page 100 of your meeting packet. Thanks.
Okay. This is a public hearing. Anyone in the public wishing to speak?
We received no public comment.
All right, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the dais. Questions from the dais. Mr. Hartung.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second. I got a motion by Hartung, a second by Reese. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, 6F, informational presentation, discussion, and possible direction to staff regarding fiscal year 2023-2024 budget. Jeremy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jeremy Smith for the record. I'll be doing this presentation, and hopefully, Damien, you can just click it forward for me. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So I wanted to start with just a quick review of the last 3 years since I've taken the helm, if you will, of the agency at the staff level. We've showed savings every one of those years. In fiscal year 20, ending in 20 rather, we saw a small savings. We had a significant amount of savings in fiscal year 21 that had to do with asking for an increase at that time from the jurisdictions. So we had a 7% increase to allocations. There was coronavirus relief funds. We had a little extra money coming from the RTC as part of the shared work program, because that's a year that coincided with the RTP. And so we did a little extra work for that. And also that was the big COVID lockdown year. And so we just really went inward and didn't spend as much. So we did pretty good. And again, though, we're saving the following year as well, in the order of about 18,000. So what we're doing is we're building the agency fund balances in a really healthy position right now. I don't have the exact number at this moment because we yet await the results of the fiscal year ending 21 audit, which should be in my hands within a week or two. And they also provide for us our official financial statements. And so I'm waiting for that number to come through to give you the exact value of the fund balance. But point is, we're looking good. We're going in the right direction in terms of having enough money to cover unexpected costs, increases that we're going to talk about, a few increases coming up here, and just generally healthy for the agency. Next slide, please. So it's timely because this line, which you can see is just a red line going up, is the Consumer Price Index from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Basically, it's a very commonly used proxy for inflation, right? It has to do with the cost of a basket of market goods. I'm not really sure exactly what that means, but it's gone up 13%, over 13% since July of 2020, which was the beginning of that first fiscal year there that we got the increase. So we have seen, we have not asked for an increase for 3 years from the jurisdictions, but we've seen massive increases in costs. So one of the things that we've talked about before is obviously probably a pretty important part of the budget is an evaluation of staff salary ranges. Now, I would say, given the inflation line we just saw, that it's important to be considering cost of living adjustments for our salary positions. We, under the advice of the chair, I did some research. First, I got it wrong, by the way, because it turns out there is a Hayes salary guide, which is out there. But there's also something called the Hay method, which is a position and salary evaluation and leveling technique that private firms will engage in. And the city of Sparks had this accomplished for them several years ago. Thanks to Jim Rundle, I was able to get the number and hook up with those folks and get a quote for what it would cost to do that for the TMRPA. They used a group called Korn Ferry. It looks like initially, based on what I told the guy, somewhere on the order of $10,000 to $20,000 to accomplish that for TMRPA. So I thought before we spend that money on that, obviously we're a pretty small staff, let's take a look at how our salary ranges stack up with the commensurate levels at the 3 jurisdictions for other planner positions. And it's obviously very important because we want to make sure that the staff are valued at TMRPA, that there's equity with their peers, and we want to ensure that we're fostering retention. We have a great team. I don't want to lose any one of these people. So we want to make sure they're well compensated and just on par with where they need to be. So let's take a look. These are the levels below the director that we have at TMRPA, basically 3 levels. Level 1 consists of Regional Planner 1, also GIS Planning Analyst 1, and Policy Analyst 1. So they're all in the same exact same salary ranges. They're all level 1. Then there's a second level, Regional Planner 2, GIS Planning Analyst 2, and Policy Analyst 2. Those all work the same. They have the same ranges right now today. And then finally, there's a level 3, which is commensurate with a senior planner. We have a senior planner position, or a GIS coordinator, which right now Damien is filling. Okay, so let's move on to this first kind of ugly graph, but I got it to finally work. So what we got here is a comparison graph, and this is at our Planner 1 level, or the Planner 1 level in the region. On the left side is salary in dollars, right? And across the bottom are positions. So the first position is Washoe Planner Trainee. That starts at $60,000. This is all published on the HR sites for the jurisdictions. Then we have Sparks Planner 1 starting around 60 as well, and City of Reno pays pretty well, starting at 80,000. And then we have the 3 bars at the far right. The first one is our current setting for our Regional Planner 1. We start at 50,000. So there's about a $10,000 discrepancy in the starting zone for that range. And then the next 2 bars give an example of increasing that range by 5% and then 10%. I put the blue star in 10% because that helps get us closer to that 60,000, I think, create that parity between the local jurisdictions and what we've got going on at regional. We could go further and get it up to 60,000. That would probably cost it about 15% increase. Let's go to the next one, please. Same story pretty much for the level 2. So here we have Washoe County Planner, Sparks Planner 2, Reno Associate Planner, and then Regional Planner 2. You can see once again we're about $10,000 below the starting point for the other jurisdictions. So again, the 510, if we were to bump up this range by 10%, that would get us quite a bit closer, which we think would be pretty cool. And in fact, all of our employees, except for Damien, who's in the one above, are sitting in this number 2 level, Regional Planner 2 or Policy Analyst 2. And finally, the GIS Coordinator Senior Planner level, we're quite a bit closer on this one. So you can see that both Washoe County and Sparks start around 78, 80,000, somewhere in there. Reno's quite a bit higher, but we're also starting in that kind of 80,000. We're still slightly lower, but in this case, the star I've got on the 5% increase, I think it would be a reasonable cost of living adjustment for this salary range to go up at least 5%. So those are just visually where the ranges sit compared to the other jurisdictions. Not as detailed as a Hay method evaluation by any means, but if we just kind of want to go to the next slide and take a look at the cost to achieve that to our budget for the level, there's no one, like I say, at level 1, so there would be no cost immediately on that one unless we hired someone else. Level 2, it would be about $19,400 to move our current staff, 3 members that are in that level 2 up to the 10% increase. And then level 3 rather, with the 5% increase is about $4,000 more to that range. So it's about $25K to achieve this COLA, which I think is, given our fund balance and the fact that we're looking to ask for a little more money, maybe for the next 3 years, keep it static. I think we can accommodate this pretty easily, and it would help. I think it would really help. So moving on, let's talk about some other assumptions, because that's my primary focus goal is to get the employees where they need to be in terms of equity in the region. But also, it's going to require, it's been 3 years where we have not asked for any increase from the jurisdictions, and I'm trying to establish a 3-year cycle where we can kind of do every 3 years, find out if we need that allocation and ask for it. I don't know exactly what the number is today. I'm going to endeavor to have a much firmer grasp in December, but I think it's on the order of 5 to 7% again to do what I just mentioned, in addition to all these things listed here. Big one will be the consideration of hiring an office administrator. This is an area where, we've been doing it all, which is fine. We kind of enjoy doing it all. We understand how it works. So it's been good to have this exercise, creating the packets, ordering the supplies, doing everything that there is to do. But I think at this point, we would love to focus on initiatives like the Natural Resource Plan and the Public Infrastructure Plan and our cases and have some help, which historically TMRPA has had. I'll be honest, it's been difficult for me to get out there and hire someone. Previous conditions of COVID was just kind of weird, but I think we're back now where we can pull that off. So I think that's something we need to look at. There's some potential either to hire a full office administrator or maybe just an administrative assistant, even a part-timer that would come in and just help us with some stuff. So that, I think we can easily support the administrative assistant route. We're clearly going to use the remainder of our regional plan update implementation funds. There's been that strange bucket of money that we have left over from the regional plan update when we were getting a little bit more from the jurisdictions to help effectuate that update. One year we got a bunch of that money in and we kind of finished the update. And so we had this pot and we've been using it to specifically support the Natural Resource Plan and the Public Infrastructure Plan, and to some degree the annual report. Those were 3 initiatives that came out of the update that we knew that we wanted to support. So that's kind of the implementation. With our work on the NR plan and the data gathering, we're whittling away at that available funds. I think we have on the order of about $80,000 left to get us to the October 2024 5-year update and get those policies updated in the plan. Okay, in addition to come back, please. In addition to the COLA for the salaries to bring it into parity, we also want to continue to support staff with a merit-based increase. We've implemented, since I've taken over, performance evaluations, and we've re-implemented merit-based raises, and that's really positive for retention and to recognize the great work that these folks are doing. There is some potential, I think, and need to get certainly GIS interns. We're working with UNR and the PAC internship program to get where they actually fund half of the cost of that. So it's really nice to get 2 interns, one for GIS, one for general planning to assist with some of our planning stuff. But we might also need to hire some other interns. So it's a pretty low cost and effective way for us to get some labor out of folks and get some GIS data crunched. Let's see, finally, as I showed the inflation graph, the cost for services, we know the auditors are going to start asking for more money. They've let me know that, possibly for bookkeeping, for lobbyists, for other services we pay for data, everything's going up. So we're going to need to want to reflect that. And finally, I think it'll be important for us to consider grant opportunities that TMRPA can go out there and try and find and bring in to support the agency as well. So those are some of the assumptions I'm working on, and I feel that coming back in December, I guess now we can go to the next slide. The motion that I have for you is that I hear your thoughts on what I've said today, and then go off, talk with the city and county managers, tell them what I'm thinking based on what I hear as well today, and really get the financial statement in, really exactly know where we stand, and bring back in December a more fully fledged draft budget that we can consider, and then bring the actual budget back in February for formal adoption. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Reese.
I have no shortage of opinions, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Smith, or Dr. Smith, rather, an excellent presentation. Thank you for being a good financial steward of the resources of the agency, which are the contributions, of course, from its member agency entities. Look, before I got here, Mayor Lawson and I were at another event. I stopped to get gas and put gas in my car, and it was shocking. And filling up your tank and looking at the screen and thinking, my gosh, we got some stuff going on here. We can see what we can do. I just think you've undershot the mark in terms of what our employees of this entity organization really need to be successful and to be able to deal with the fact that we've got cost of living increases that are pretty astronomical. So you are in the 5 to 7 range plus a 5% for merit-related increases, which means to the budget side of it, you're somewhere between 10 and 12%. And I would like it to be somewhere between 12 and 17 or 18%. I just think based on the metrics that you presented and what I know is going on within our community related to movement across agencies, because we're seeing a lot of for lack of a word, we'll call it intra-agency movement. Some people from the county are going to the city is going to the state, well, maybe no one's going to the state. Sorry, I misspoke, but you get my drift. I want to maintain and keep good people. I want to have the ability to have them over a 5 and 10 and 15-year growth cycle, because it's when you have that deep connection to your employees that they are doing their best work. And so for my part, I just think better as to how you go out to the city managers of each of our respective entities and tap, I'd rather have you do it deeper than sort of each year sort of come, asking for a small amount. And I appreciate the 3-year look-see. I don't think that that's incorrect in any way. I just think that it perhaps is not reflective of where we are today and the numbers which your, analysis have borne out. So for my part, me only, given where you are with the sort of the surplus that's in the account, where I think you have to go in order to maintain good people, I just think you've got to ask for a little bit more. I appreciate that you don't, but we can be up here supporting your folks in that regard. So that would be my recommendation.
Sure.
Ms. Stewart?
Yeah, I want to second Mr. Reese's comments. I've had the opportunity to be chair here. One of the comments that I made throughout was that we needed a better, or the word I used was a more sustainable budget plan. I'm very concerned that I thought I saw a slide that said you did not award COLAs since 2020. That was confusing to me. Well, I can't even imagine that. I mean, what are we doing? I mean, all of the agencies have received very significant COLAs, and that's when probably they also, in some cases, move the ranges, but they at least got a COLA. And I'm surprised that we didn't hear, frankly. Maybe it was lack of money, but maybe it was bad timing. I don't recall the reason. But anyway, I just want to support Mr. Reese. I think we have some catch up to do. And I think we have an opportunity to do it. And I think when you do have the money available, it's sort of like a one-shot deal, and it's a time to do it. And you just talked about our 13% CPI. You're not even there. I mean, you're talking about 5 and 7% and 7 and 8%. And we went over all of this in Reno in agonizing detail a few months ago with all of our labor groups. And, I agree with Mr. Reese that I appreciate it. I commented later for your review, great on sustainability in terms of your financial management, but I also commented later, you'll see, that we needed to get to a more sustainable financial plan. And this is the time, I think, to take that step. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, anyone else? Mr. Hartung, you're in agreement? Cheatery? Okay. All right, so I'm just with the advice that you've been given, and my advice is to get with the city managers on a regular basis, not just for this. Sorry, the managers. I always, when I see manager, I think three, but sorry, the county manager, along with, as an aside, the other city managers, to discuss the entire thing. And I agree with Mr. Reese that aim higher.
Okay.
And you can always go down. You can never go up. Okay?
Okay.
How about a motion to accept the report?
Moved. Second.
Motion from Hartung, second from Reese. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, motion carries unanimously. All right, now we run into the fun stuff. Discussion and possible action regarding contract and compensation of Jeremy M. Smith, Director of Regional Planning. Ms. Prudney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jessica Prunty for the record. I provided to you memorandums yesterday and then another revised memorandum early this morning for the director's evaluation summary based upon your individual evaluations that everyone returned. Thank you very much. Also, an updated director contract and compensation memo. I went through his compensation since beginning as interim director over the last few years of renewals. And tried to do an update of the salary survey on Transparent Nevada, but I would say that there's not been a lot of updates to Transparent Nevada lately, a few entities. So historically, this body will vote to renew the contract, accept the evaluation results, and then delegate authority to the chair to negotiate the terms and conditions of the contract. And if we want to delve into a deeper salary analysis at that time, we certainly can do it during those negotiations, and then bring it back to this body at the December meeting for approval and ratification. So that is my recommendation, that you take that action today.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, it's all good. So I think you and Mr. Reese should go off and work with each other, work with Dr. Smith. The problem that we are going to have is Dr. Smith is a very humble fellow. And he will not want to accept anything that his staff doesn't get. So, which I admire greatly, beyond what you can begin to imagine, Dr. Smith. That said, maybe we can work out the whole scenario at the same time, giving Dr. Smith a commensurate raise with what we have been discussing for the staff members. And I think you and Mr. Reese, you and the vice chair are the perfect ones to handle that negotiation and bring it back to us. Thank you.
Any other comments? We'll take that as direction.
One more brief comment. I think, Ms. Prunty, that relying solely on data from Transparent Nevada is, without a doubt, it would be a mistake. When I look at some of the ranges that I see here, I know that a number of us sit on bodies that are either these specific bodies or bodies adjacent, and I know that there have been a bunch of movement in the last couple of years. So I don't know how to get better information. Councilmember Doer and I have been involved on the Reno City side with a number of different functional HR-related things that analyze this data. And I am sure that if the city has data that is available, would be helpful to you, we will help to make it available. I just think that some of the numbers are off. And Mayor Lawson and I will have to spend some time thinking about where we could get better data from. But I just don't want to evaluate this important position. So, but excellent work in terms of putting together what you can find. It's hard to do.
It is, and I figured that we could delve in and maybe actually directly contact some of the agencies. And I can set up a meeting for the three of us and Dr. Smith and do that work in advance of that meeting and have that information for you. That would be my recommendation.
Okay,
And, Mr. Chair?
yes.
Is this the time to, Ms. Prunty, that we talk about the review or any? Oh, okay, well, I just wanted,
No, we don't want to talk about the review.
yeah, well, there were two comments I wanted that are very relevant
Just
to
look at the
this.
front, 9.375.
You will like what I have to
Win any
say.
Olympic event with that.
Okay. I'm going to repeat two comments I made on the review that are very relevant at this moment. One was, the only criticism I have here is that Jeremy does not easily accept praise for the good work he does. Okay? And the second related comment was, hear us, Jeremy. You are a stellar performer and deserve every accolade you receive. So I felt like I had to write it in the review because that is just to speak to the comments that have already been made, you know, humble to a fault. And you have to kind of hear us, what we're saying, because I know people like yourself that tend to internalize and I'll hear the criticisms if there are any, but block out the positives. And so we don't want you to do that anymore. And we want you to hear it. And then I'm hoping our chair and vice chair will act upon it. So thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? We need a
Yes,
motion.
We would
to
like
give-
the motion I'm looking for is for you to accept the evaluation report, renew the contract, subject to the negotiation of the terms and conditions, and bring that back later to this body in December.
So moved, go forth and multiply.
Second.
I got a motion by Hartung, second by Dewar. And any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And I will ask that you set up a time for the four of us that we can get together, and we should probably include maybe city managers. So we can talk about the whole ball of wax all at once. How's that?
And the county manager.
And the county, well,
Well, I
it
don't
just
know.
goes without saying that the county manager would be included, or the city manager would be included with the county manager. Okay. Thank you. Beth, do you have anything to say under the Washington County School District report?
I do. Hello, everyone. Hi, governing board colleagues and members of the community. So school's been in session for almost a couple months, and the district would like to thank all the agencies involved with the opening of our new schools and the major expansions. We continue to focus on off-site safety and traffic improvements, so we really want to hear about that, particularly around the area of pedestrian walkways and crossways. An important project underway for the school district, Board of Trustees, and our shared community is the Facilities Modernization Plan, which you may have heard about. The Washoe County School District has partnered with Canon Design for a thorough review of our portfolio of education sites, which will inform our capital expenditures and building process for years to come. And it's true that most of those recommendations will affect existing schools rather than result in new ones. But we do want all the members of the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Governing Board and all of our neighbors to be aware of and engaged with that process. It's very important to get your feedback. This is an opportunity to address existing schools and how we can properly support their integration into communities, which I know is something we have discussed at length here at the governing board level. Our Chief Operating Officer, Adam Searcy, is also offering personal meetings with any governing board member, and I know many of you have already accepted that invitation, so it's warmly offered. There are multiple public events scheduled, and the next ones are 2 in-person public forums on October 19th, and there's also 1 virtual forum on October 20th. And anyone listening right now is welcome to learn more about those events and the whole plan at www.washoeschoolsnet.org/FMP. Also excited to share some updates on the Jaywood Raw Elementary School in South Reno. We're on track for the scheduled opening of August 2023. Construction and the around traffic improvements are going as planned. There's also an exciting topping out ceremony happening on October 27th at 1 p.m. You are very warmly welcome to that. There will be an opportunity to sign a beam, which will then be placed at the highest section of the building. It'll be a really happy celebration, and we would love to have you. And I'll keep the governing board updated on all other important events and opportunities related to that new school. My last thing is the demolition of certain areas of the old Hug High School was approved by the Board of Trustees just Tuesday as we continue the process of making the W. Smith Career and Technical Education Academy a reality. And that's it for now. Thank you so much for your time. If anyone has any questions in the public or on the governing board about any of these topics, I'm always available. Thank you.
Trustee Smith, this is Vice Chair Reese. I've had to step in for Mayor Lawson, and I can't see you, but I just want to send you some great healing vibes. I know that you're going through chemo treatments right now, and we love you, and we're thinking about you.
Thank you so much. That speaks right to my heart, and I can't begin to tell you how much that really means to me. Thank you for all of your support.
Okay, coming back to the body, we have members and directors' reports. Are there any members who have anything to add or give report on? Okay, thank you so much. Director Smith, what do we have left here?
I just have a quick director's report. I can give a few items there.
Fantastic, thank you.
Thank you. Jeremy Smith, the record. So we had a very successful natural resource event on September 24th at Rancho San Rafael Park. It was fairly well attended, and I think, thank you, Devin, for coming. That was fantastic. Probably the greatest thing was the booth people. We called them the booth people, but it was it was these folks from different organizations and entities that came to also, ply their wares, if you will, and talk about. Tumwa was there, the Pyramid Lake Paiute Tribe was there, Truckee Meadows Tomorrow, the Endow came, and several others. And I mean, just the networking that went on between all of those folks was also very fantastic. So it was a great event, and we're looking forward to doing more of that stuff next summer as well to support natural resources. Shawnee mentioned the consensus forecast. And so often we will bring the consensus forecast to you to take a look at. It actually gets formally adopted by the Regional Planning Commission. But given we had kind of a big schedule today, we left it off. But I just want to point out that we did take it through the water planning process, where it goes through the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission and Western Regional Water Commission. There's a comparison of the forecasted population with the identified sustainable water resources. And that was found to be fine, that we have identified sustainable water resources that can support that growth. So that all happened, and it is available on our website, and also going to be added now, post this meeting, as Appendix 4 of the plan. We're doing a Pool Pact Phase 1 compliance reassessment. So we had Pool Pact come into the office. They're helping us get our personnel files in order, get our policy manual up to snuff. And so you can expect in probably not the next meeting, but perhaps the meeting after or early next year, we'll bring an item back to update our policy manual to newer policies, get that going. Just want to let you know that we are continuing to work on the project of regional significance discussion, the resolution, and that item. We're taking an item to the Regional Planning Commission this month. That's our plan, to take something and get that going on that level. Let's see, based on your feedback, I will speak with city and county managers. We'll work on the budget. I will aim higher, which I really love hearing. Thank you. And we're also going to be planning to bring that history of annexations that was discussed at a previous meeting. We'll try to get that back to you in December. And finally, the next meeting of the RPGB will be in this chambers on December 8th at 2 p.m. Thank you. And also, thank you very much for your comments and for the review. I just really appreciate the kind words, and I am definitely hearing you, so thank you.
Thank you for that update, Dr. Smith. I will say for my part, because I did have the opportunity to attend the natural resource rollout, what a spectacular event. I actually think it could become one of the premier fall events for our region. It wasn't obviously just our staff, and you're right, the booth people, as you referred to them, I'm thinking of like the swamp people, but they were each had some very unique perspectives on things. There was a trails group, a bike group, fishing, wildlife. There were probably 13 or 14, and all of them, of course, are networking with one another, but they're networking with the community and always pushing a sustainable vision for our region. So it may have been an inaugural year. It looked like you've been doing it, and your staff have been doing it for 10 years because of how well it was presented. And I think the community really enjoyed it too. I mean, I talked to some folks who stopped by, maybe won prizes or something that there were some trivia contests. So at the end of the day, I think a really great opportunity also to share the vision of this organization, because not everyone knows what you do. They are impacted by what you do, but they don't always know who is pulling the lever. So I thought it was just fantastic. So thank you for that. Ms. Prunty, do you have a legal report today?
Nothing to report, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Did you have something?
Yes, no, I just wanted to apologize to Dr. Smith for not being there. I had the wrong day on my calendar. This is what happens when you don't listen to your wife.
Well, you'll make it up to him next year and in the evaluation, right? Something like that.
My wife had it correctly, and I had the wrong day on my calendar, so.
Doesn't surprise me at all that she would have it right and you would have it wrong.
Exactly.
Any board comments or requests for future agenda items from the body? Anybody on Zoom land? No? Okay, number 9 is our final public comment period. Anything there?
We have none.
Written correspondence?
We had the one email item that I mentioned today in the email to you all. We have developed a new location on our website that will be the same link going forward, where any written correspondence we receive, we'll have it there, so we can just alert you at the time that we receive it, and you can take a look. But
And that's something that's then kept as a public record?
Exactly. Yes.
Thank you so much. Okay, I think that brings us to the conclusion of the meeting, and I will adjourn the meeting.
Okay.